Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Hello and welcome to my spoiler review of Deadpool and Wolverine. Obviously, the most anticipated film of 2024, and even though it has been out for 2 days, this movie has already made more than the entire theatrical run of the Marvels, which I think really does just speak a lot for that. And yeah, man, this movie was just awesome. Let's just start off with the opening of the movie. My God, what an amazing opening that was. Probably one of the best in Marvel history. And that is obviously Deadpool digging up the remains of Logan, which part of me really does not like that, and I think a lot of people are mixed on that whole thing. But he digs up the bones, and with Bye 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 playing, he dances and uses the bones as blades to kill the different TVA agents. That is just such a clever way to use the adamantium, but if I'm being completely honest, I still don't really like the fact that they did that, because obviously Logan was like the most emotionally distressing movie in comic history, and that has the saddest death, I think, of any superhero. So I don't know, when they announced that Hugh Jackman was coming back, Ryan and Hugh both said they are not touching the events of Logan. Unfortunately, literally in the beginning of the movie, they go and dig up his grave. So yeah, it didn't sit well with me initially, but it was really funny. And yeah, this opening was just absolutely phenomenal. I can't praise it enough. Then we get to like the Deadpool side of things, which, let's just talk about that. This movie is, I think, in my mind, it's definitely being compared to Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire, in that Godzilla and Kong was, first of all, the movie wasn't very good, but mainly it was a Kong movie with Godzilla sprinkled in for 10 seconds every like 20 minutes or so. This movie is a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. It's as much as one movie as the other, and it is just perfect in, like dividing the screen time equally. And not only that, I think the tone of the movie, they really do, like, they have the right tone with the specific characters. They don't go all goofy and happy when it's Wolverine's side of things. It's really serious, especially when Laura is talking to him. You can really, really feel that. And yeah, the Laura, man, what a useless character. I'm joking. Obviously, this movie is not just cameo porn. The characters actually do serve a purpose, at least some of them. And yeah, Laura is one of them, of course, returning from Logan. And, to be honest, I think that she definitely could have done more in the movie, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I mean, she was okay. As far as the cameos go, obviously there were a lot, but unfortunately, only like one or two that I actually got right from my video, because there was not a single Fox X-Men character in this movie, which I could not believe it. I genuinely couldn't, because I was like, okay, they have Pyro, obviously they're gonna have Iceman. Nope, no Iceman, no Professor X, no Magneto, not Magneto, nobody. I couldn't believe it. And that was probably the most surprising part, is because Deadpool and I were on like the same wavelength. Because when Elektra or whoever says, like, there's four of us, he goes, oh, is it Magneto? Please let it be Magneto. And she goes, Magneto's dead. He's like, fuck. It's the same reaction I had. Yeah, the cameos were, plentiful, because obviously there was Elektra, which this has really pissed me off because I watched all the X-Men movies, the Fantastic Four movie, and I didn't watch the Daredevil film and Blade because I was like, it's not going to be that important. Shit, man. And obviously that just leads on to Blade because we had Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner, and then we had Wesley Snipes' Blade, a character who I again have not seen, but I know what he looks like. So as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my god, they actually got Wesley Snipes back, even like with the drama between him and Ryan Reynolds. That's insane. And obviously they throw a joke in of him saying to Deadpool, like, I never liked you. Or, I don't like you. And Deadpool's like, yeah, you never have. That was great. And that was the first time since like No Way Home I have heard people clap in the cinema, because my god, people were clapping, they were, there were a couple cheering. It was really, really cool to see, especially for a character who I have not seen a single movie with. But the one that I was most excited to see was Channing Tatum as Gambit. This was just amazing. Obviously, if you don't know, Gambit was supposed to be in X-Men The Last Stand, which was 18 years ago. And Channing Tatum was supposed to play him, but due to scheduling conflicts, he did not play it. Then he was supposed to get a solo movie, and that did not happen because Disney had bought Fox. So Gambit, Channing Tatum just needed to play Gambit, and of course trusted Ryan Reynolds to bring him back, so to give him the opportunity. And my god, his character was awesome, especially in the fight against, Cassandra Nova's people. And obviously we can't talk about cameos without mentioning the Wolverine montage. My goodness, that was so much fun to look at. I think that might have been like the only scene in this movie where I understood every single reference. Actually, that's a lie. There's a couple more scenes where I definitely did. But here you got so many. I was literally pointing it out. I was saying it out loud in the cinema. You got the really short Wolverine. Obviously, that is a reference to basically how Wolverine is like puny in the comics. He's like 1.6 meters or something like that. He's really short, so obviously they were kind of poking fun at that with him. Obviously, all of these were played by Hugh Jackman, except for one. There was one in the brown and gold suit, I believe, and he was fighting the Incredible Hulk. A fight which I know people have been wanting for so long, and I'm glad they teased it here. And it's probably going to happen in like Avengers 5 or Secret Wars or whatever. It will happen. Then there's like an 80s like druggy Logan. Then there's also freaking Old Man Logan. As soon as I saw that hat, I was like, oh my god, that's Old Man Logan. There was Patch, which obviously we saw in the original teaser trailer. Sorry, I keep saying obviously, I'm just really excited. He was in the first teaser trailer, and that is originally where I thought we were going to see Channing Tatum's Gambit. I didn't think that it was going to be like halfway into the movie. I thought that's the scene where we were going to see him because that was a casino. But no. And on top of Patch, we then have Henry Cavill's Wolverine. This was a rumor, and it was kind of rumored that he was going to be the one fighting the Hulk. But I didn't really think that. I thought we were going to see him, but I didn't think he was going to be fighting the Hulk. And he looks really good as Wolverine. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know if I'd like it for him to play him moving forward. I feel like obviously there's nobody who can replace Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He is the Wolverine. And yeah, but I don't know. I really loved how Deadpool was like, we're going to treat you better than your friends across the street or down the street. Obviously referring to like DC, Warner Brothers, given the immense amount of disrespect towards Henry Cavill with the whole Superman situation. But that's the thing with the movie, is one of my few negatives, along with there being no Fox X-Men, like X-Men members. We've had plenty of villains, but there were no X-Men members in the movie. Apart from that, one of my few negatives is the type of humor. This is still the funniest Marvel movie. Undoubtedly, it's brilliant. And maybe, okay, Ragnarok is close, but this one is really, really good. But there are times where the humor is very 2024. You know, it's like the things that are not going to particularly age well. And in like 10 years, you'll be like, oh my God, really? You're making a joke about this? What is it, like 2020? It really is just questionable because a lot of the gossip, well, a lot of the jokes in this movie are like based on like gossip, and even things that Deadpool says, like "let this man cook." Obviously, a very 2024 thing to say. So yeah, that definitely could have been better in my opinion. Especially as someone who doesn't really care about the celebrity gossip and things like that. Come on, man. It feels like it's definitely isolating the people who are not constantly following these things. But again, it's like any movie. Some things you'll understand, some things you won't. But let's just talk about the performances, please. Ryan Reynolds is just brilliant as Deadpool. Obviously, we don't need any more confirmation on that. That no one can play Deadpool better than Ryan Reynolds, and no one can play Wolverine better than Hugh Jackman. These two have cemented their places on like the Mount Rushmore of perfect comic book castings. They are just fantastic, especially when they're together. Because if I'm being honest with you, this is probably Hugh Jackman's best performance as Wolverine. I do think it is better than his one in Logan, especially in the scene in this movie where he absolutely loses it with Deadpool. Where he's like, you couldn't even keep your relationship with the fucking stripper. Oh my God, he loses it with him. He just goes on and on and on. And Deadpool is just sitting there quiet, and he's like, "What? You got nothing to fucking say now?" And then Deadpool obviously just returns to back. He's like, "I'm gonna fight you now." What a phenomenal scene! And yeah, the relationship between these two was definitely brilliant because they do have a couple fights in the movie. There's obviously the one that's shown off in all the trailers when they immediately land in the void by the 20th Century Fox sign. Man, that fight was so good. It was brilliant. There were a couple moments where Hugh Jackman's Wolverine looked like a video game character. I don't think they would have CGI'd him in, although they could have just sped up the footage. But yeah, it did look a little goofy at times. But one thing I loved about that fight was just how feral and animalistic Hugh Jackman was as Wolverine in that fight. Where he was like on all fours and things like that. And that's where he obviously says, let's fucking go. That was just fantastic. Then there was the fight in the car, which was just brilliant because, of course, it was very confined and restricting in terms of their environment. So that was brilliant. And yeah, when they were fighting together, they were just so entertaining. But towards the end of the movie, when they do team up, my God, is it amazing to see them together, especially when, Hugh loses the sleeves, but more importantly, when he pulls the cowl over his head. Because if I'm being completely honest with you, I genuinely forgot about that. While of course I do prefer having Hugh Jackman's face, this I think for especially like a once off is just amazing. I love how the helmet looks in live action. The eyes obviously are a bit strange looking because they do have to CGI them in for expressions, but my God, it looked phenomenal. And the way I got so happy when I saw him do that. Just seeing them, like seeing Deadpool and Wolverine together in poses like this in live action, God damn, we were living the dream with this movie. I don't want it to sound like I'm just glazing the movie. It's not perfect, obviously. As I've said, my main complaint was that most of the all of the cameos from the Fox X-Men films are villains. We didn't get any of the actual X-Men, which sucked. That and this movie didn't really have the emotional impact that I thought it would when watching the other two Deadpool movies. They really do like leave you thinking. This one, it's more of a happy movie, which is really interesting given the backstory with this Wolverine, which let's just talk about that. This is in universe is considered the worst Wolverine. I initially had a theory. Obviously, we all know that the X-Men died in this Wolverine's world. We came to that conclusion since we saw the gravestones. But what I thought happened was Cassandra Nova was going to, well, had mind controlled this Wolverine into killing all the X-Men. That did not happen. I mainly thought that because in the comics, Wolverine does accidentally kill the X-Men due to a Mysterio illusion. But if I'm being honest, especially when you watch those first three Fox X-Men movies and you see how the mutants are treated, I kind of prefer what happened in the movie, in that the humans just went mutant hunting and they killed the X-Men. And Wolverine, went and got drunk at a bar, and that's why he wasn't there to defend them. Because especially when you watch X2, in like one of the early scenes of the movie, you see that Hugh Jackman is like, well, I say Hugh Jackman, Wolverine is basically the main reason why the kids don't get kidnapped by Stryker's men. He's the one who protects them. And him not being there, well, you obviously saw what happened. They managed to kill people like Storm, like Cyclops, like Jean, like Beast, like Professor X. God damn, this Wolverine has been through hell, and you can see it. And that's what kind of made that ending scene so good, is him choosing to go and stop Cassandra Nova because he has no one to go back to, whereas Wade does. But obviously Wade does try and do the whole sacrifice thing. But given that this movie is called Deadpool and Wolverine, it was perfect that they could only do it together. And having Wolverine's suit just burst, and you see Hugh Jackman shirtless once again, it was perfect. You cannot have Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and not have him be shirtless. Oh my god, this whole ending scene, especially with Like a Prayer playing, oh man, it was phenomenal. I completely forgot. I was just talking about Hugh Jackman's sexiness. I completely forgot to mention Chris Evans. I don't know what's wrong with me. So I kind of had this sort of spoiled. The thing is, I don't actually know, because I knew that he was in the movie somehow, but I didn't know how. I think maybe it was just a rumor, probably. I can't actually remember. It's been a while, but yeah, I kind of knew that Chris Evans was going to be in here as Johnny Storm, and the way that he is introduced, I knew that he was Johnny Storm, of course, but it's surprising how many people on the internet thought that he was playing Captain America. I don't really understand why, especially with Captain America Brave New World about to come out. Why would they bring in Chris Evans to play Captain America? That makes no sense. But yeah, speaking of Johnny Storm, something that I think also doesn't make sense is why people are so pissed off that Pyro beat him. Guys, Pyro's ability is literally that he's able to manipulate fire. If he wants to dissipate fire and just stop it, he can do that. It doesn't matter that it's coming from Johnny Storm. So that whole thing made sense, and the reason why I loved this version, this role of Chris Evans, is just because he gets to act like a douche. He gets to act like an idiot, and he gets probably one of the most brutal deaths in Marvel. He gets skinned and then just falls and turns into like a sack of bones and flesh. It's disgusting. But the reason why I love this whole thing with Johnny was because of the post-credit scene, in which obviously in the movie, Deadpool just kind of blames Johnny for all of these things, like to try to save his own ass, and then you see the post-credit scene of the act of the camera in that ball, and it's like, oh my god, Chris Evans really just unloaded all of this vulgar language upon us. And you could see he was having so much fun doing it as well. He really was like, this time I don't have to be the goody two shoes, Captain America, you know. This time I just get to swear and just say whatever the fuck I want. So, yeah, honestly, seeing Chris Evans in a role like this was fantastic once again. And yeah, man, he really has not changed since 2005. He can still play Johnny Storm really well. And yeah, I really enjoyed that character. Another thing I heard people complaining about was the pacing of the movie, saying that it was like too fast and stuff like that. I don't know, I thought that it was perfectly fine because it got to the parts that we wanted to see, and that's obviously Deadpool and Wolverine together. I don't know, I will have to rewatch the movie to see, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Cassandra Nova, I thought, was a pretty creepy villain. Not just because of not really because of how she looked. She was pretty sexy, but well, minus the bald head and psychotic tendencies. But the way that she reads people's minds is just disgusting and so weird. You know how she like sticks her hand into their head and like moves their eyeballs and things like that. It's horrendous to watch. It really, really is. But it works so well. And she really is a villain that would have been at home if she was the villain of Multiverse of Madness. And I think a lot of people are going to be saying that this movie is what Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness should have been. You know, a really good multiverse movie. And speaking of multiverses, we've spoken about the Wolverine variants. What about the Deadpool ones? There's Headpool, there's Kidpool, there's Lady Deadpool, there's friggin' Baby Pool, there's Cowboy Pool, there's Nice Pool, who... Poor Nice Pool, man. He gets like the most violent death out of all of them. Of course, Deadpool will pick the one variant of himself that can't regenerate and uses him as a damn shield. That, to me, was like one of the funniest parts of the movie. And he's like, so how long does it take for you to regenerate? And he's like, regenerate? That was just brilliant. But one thing that I really could not believe was that they never showed us who played Lady Deadpool. I genuinely couldn't believe it because that was a huge topic of discussion among fans, is who's going to be playing Lady Deadpool. And they just never showed it. I know that she was voiced by Blake Lively, it was in the credits, but I don't know if the actual actress there was her. Because I feel like if it was her, they would have shown her face. But yeah, overall, action amazing, the humor fantastic. The acting was brilliant. The chemistry between Deadpool and Wolverine was just absolutely amazing. Yeah, this movie was just so much fun. And I think the last thing that really elevated it was the score. The score in this film was fantastic. The choice of music was brilliant. The amount of times they use Like a Prayer, and it fits the scene every single time. Man, this movie was really cool. And, you know, I hope we get another movie like this. Not a multiverse movie, a good movie. I mean, if you need any more proof that it's good, it not only has it gotten the highest opening box office weekend of any R-rated movie, it's gotten the highest box office opening weekend of like a movie from this year. So it's insane, man. This movie, I hope it does really well. I really, really do. If it doesn't hit like at least 1.5 billion, then the world is broken because it's tracking to earn, I think, 450 by the end of the weekend. So, yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine, finally, the first movie of 2024 that I actually really enjoyed. Because the ones I've seen so far were either absolute rubbish or just disappointing. Because Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was the best movie I'd seen this year until now. This is the only one. This is the one I can say was genuinely fantastic. So, yeah, I think that wraps up about everything Please let me know your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine in the comment section. Go crazy with the spoilers. And yeah, please, if you did enjoy this video, leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.